Welcome to the next episode of Changing the Game, She Leads. This is a new podcast dedicated to sharing the real human stories behind female leaders in recruitment, founders, CEOs and trailblazers who have made it to the top of their game. Our goal is to explore not just their professional journey, but the personal resilience, values and mindset that it takes to succeed. We want to explore the next generation of female leaders by showing what's possible and what's real. So in that vein, I'm very excited to welcome Tara Ricks to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today, Tara.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Tara is non-exec director and board advisor to the recruitment industry, and I think it's going to be a very valuable insight into her world and how she has got to where she is today. So we're just going to crack on. Can you just start by walking through how you got into recruitment and how your journey started?
Yeah, sure. I think it's like many other people. I don't think you kind of don't sort of sit in your formative years thinking I want to spend my working years talking about job roles or putting together CVs, do you?
Really?
I don't think anyone
No,
does.
they don't.
So like a lot of people, it was opportunistic. Really at the beginning I was working in investment banking and had the opportunity originally as an investor. So it was opportunistic. It was a business called Joss & Rowe, which was really small little recruitment business just focusing on investment banking. And you could see that there was a fantastic opportunity in that market. So that brought me in and subsequent to that, I quickly discovered that I loved it.
How did you go from investor to being involved in the operations?
So it was clear that the business needed real focus. We wanted to be really ambitious and to grow, and that that requires a decision of really taking risk and really maximising, leveraging the opportunity. To be honest, so was working in it full time and grew, loved it. It's a real meritocracy. Recruitment, it was the ability to grow teams, engage with organisations. Investment banking itself was going through phenomenal growth at that point, so it was not difficult to differentiate your business and do very well, and the business flew for a long time. It's great. We really rode that wave while also being strategic about international growth and functional growth, and really repositioned to the broader wholesale financial services market. So great journey, lots to love about the industry. It is one of the real meritocracies that are left, and I think that is something that still attracts people into the industry. The industry's grown up hugely since then, both in terms of levels of sophistication, the career opportunities, the actual investment in people. You can go and do a degree in recruitment now, can't you?
Yeah.
So it's there with one of the professions now, which is wonderful to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously you joined sounds like an independent business, and then you ended up working in a corporate. Talk me through that transition.
Well, I think it was always the ambition to do something with Joss & Rowe in terms of an event. I think that's a real motivator for many people to build something that is sustainably profitable and then crystallise that in an event, which was very something that that we wanted to do. So we sold the business to Randstad, and actually I ended up staying at Randstad a lot longer than I really thought I would. It was an interesting time. They were making lots of acquisitions. There was lots of M&A going on, a lot of integration of brands, and all the work that goes with that, and the opportunity to scale quite significantly as well. And having run a very lean privately owned business, as we do, you don't spend money on things that are not really essential.
No.
And then suddenly being part of an organisation that sponsored a Formula One team and being able to take your clients to Monaco to watch the Grand Prix, it was
incredible.
Yeah, I mean, to be able to take advantage of that environment, culturally and operationally, to advance your business was, that was an opportunity that was quite significant, and really, we wanted to grasp that opportunity.
And when did you know that you wanted to lead, like a team?
I think that was really early on, and it was kind of out of necessity, frankly. But I think at some point, I have very strong opinions, and often they're opinions about how not to do things.
Right.
And I think that's often where leadership comes from. And you are put, and when you're put in a position where other people are relying on you, you have to, hone your leadership skills really well, and you'll fail or succeed on the back of your ability to do that. So if you don't build your emotional intelligence, your empathy, etc., then I don't think you will succeed. Not in a people-focused business like our sector is. But I knew, it was something that I embraced early on, and it was something that I, always enjoyed.
Did you always feel the confidence to be able to do that?
No, not at all. I think your confidence is a constant evolving state, frankly. It really is. I can't overestimate that enough. I get, to this day, I'll still get imposter syndrome. If I take on a new advisory gig that might be, something that's really significantly different, of course, that I'll still have the odd sleepless night. I think that confidence builds, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyone who tells you different is lying. And I think it starts early on in your career, and you constantly work at it. We have this thing called imposter syndrome, don't we? And I think, it's not a personal state, it's a fact of life.
Yeah.
And it affects an awful lot of women, men as well, but
Yeah.
I think, research shows that it probably affects women more. And I think accepting that as kind of data rather than a state is really important, because then you can deal with it in a better way.
And how would you say you dealt with it? What kind of, do you have any tools that you use? Any kind of just mindset tricks?
Yeah. I think it's the first thing is understanding that you can take risks. It's okay to take risks. I think, moving from that, I think you have to make a decision in your career about moving from that sort of safe progression to risk taking. And that is a different state of mind, and that brings about a different, you've got that skill set of constantly negotiating with yourself about taking risks. And I think sometimes as women we kind of want to be ready, and actually we're never really ready. If you wait around to be ready, things won't happen, is my advice. I think you've kind of got to there's a lot of research, isn't there? Both McKinsey and Harvard have done research around, as females we tend to want to be 100% meeting our own internal set of requirements and criteria in order for us to say we are ready. Whereas with males, it tends to be 50-60% mindset.
Really?
And that's a huge difference. And you've got to work that into your thinking, because I think if we hang around to wait until we're ready, we never will certainly do things. Yeah. And taking agency with your own risk taking, I think we all have that agency, don't we? And I think in my experience, that the real growth happens on the other side of fear. So you'll always get that. It's a bit like when you take exercise, you hate doing it, but you're going to get that rush. Yeah. It's the same thing. That growth always happens on the other side of that real fear. So risk, moving from safe to risk, and that builds. That absolutely builds confidence. And there are tools. I think you have to start being conscious of visibility. Whether you're in a one-to-one, in an open office, or in a meeting, to own your kind of space. It sounds a cliche, but I think it is really relevant, because it really speaks to building confidence. If you start taking your space and, teaching yourself to own that space in, whether that's being able to contribute vocally, being able to contribute strategically, but really owning your space in every single situation that you're in and contributing really helps to support the build of confidence.
Amazing.
But it's a constant evolution of state, frankly.
It is, yeah. Do you think you have any personal qualities that innate in you that, obviously you mentioned, you're confident, you speak up, you have opinions on things. Is there anything else in terms of your personality that you think is suited to a leadership role?
I think that could be curiosity. Yeah. I think any leader, you've got to be curious, because that is going to really drive that constant learning, your own self-learning, and your ability to want to develop as a leader, but also your curiosity about your market, about your sector, about your clients, et cetera, et cetera. So that innate curiosity that you keep working on. And I think empathy as well. You have to have empathy. And I know it's certainly something I've needed to work on, but I think that's a really important part. I think once you understand empathy and how that can live and breathe authentically as a leader, it's a great trait to have.
Yeah, 100%. And how did that, obviously you're running a big team, big corporate, big name, like how did that impact your personal life? Like how did you balance the two?
See, this is a really interesting thing, isn't it? And the word balance, I think, is an interesting one because by its very nature, it invokes a sense of precariousness.
As a compromise, yeah.
Balancing is precarious, and that doesn't sit well with me. And I think that it is about, and I a while back made the decision to, instead of using the word compromises, use the word choices, because I think they're different enough, and the nuances are different. We can't have it all, and I'm always really emphatic about telling people, especially women who are coming into the workforce, that's the reality. And anyone who's trying to sell you anything is either selling a course or a product or something.
Yeah.
But it's just not true. And life is a series of choices, and you make them based on your own personal situation, requirements, ambitions, but it is a series of choices. Now, life is seasons, isn't it? And some seasons will all be about work, and other seasons will be more about life, perhaps, or hobbies, or whatever. But the ebb and flow of seasons you can't underestimate either.
Yeah.
And there are certain parts in your life where you really learn, and then you execute, and there are different seasons in life, and I think you have to go with that. So I think choices instead of compromises.
Yep.
Because it has a less negative connotation. Did I make compromises? Absolutely. But reframing them and renegotiating them with myself as choices makes me feel stronger about, the journey that I've taken and the choices that I've made.
Amazing. And in terms of your kind of day-to-day, have you ever felt sort of pressure to lead in a certain way because of gender expectations, like versus your peers within the group? Like, have you ever felt?
Well, I think only if it's to my advantage.
Yeah.
Actually, because we are different as leaders potentially. Not in many, in some ways, not in all. We can be more nurturing. We can be more empathetic. And if that is my differentiator in a world of difference, then great. I'll use that to my advantage. Has it ever been a disadvantage? No. I mean, I think there are people out there who would love it to be a disadvantage sometimes. And I don't look. The world is different today to when I first became a leader, and that's great. We have a legislative environment that protects females way more. But have I spent a professional life of constantly being the only female in a boardroom? Yeah, very, very frequently, and that isn't changing at the pace that any of us would like, actually. Unfortunately, but you show up, and it makes absolutely no difference to me now at all. In fact, I probably don't even notice.
Right.
But of course, there was a time when it did, and you have to use that as your advantage, and you develop a set of tools that allows you to, use the difference or ignore the difference, whichever is the best set of tools to implement at that particular time.
And what, like you mentioned, the boardroom, lack of females in the boardroom, what do you think companies can be doing? Like, how can we, that's another topic, another podcast, how do we address this problem? But what can we be doing as leaders to sort of change that?
Yeah. I think there's some great work going on, and it is changing. And, incrementally so. And I think, recruitment being effective, we're a customer-facing service industry. So there are challenges around making sure each business has an environment in which it's really easy for people to have a family, accommodate that, have the working models that accommodate it. And I get that, and I think people have done some really sterling work on improving that, and actually acknowledging that it can be done. I think generational differences in the world of work have really pushed that agenda as well, really well. And a lot of firms in our sector now, their buying client base are themselves facing these same challenges. So there is more empathy. We used to think, that we couldn't possibly operate in a certain way because the clients wouldn't like it. I mean, I don't think those days have gone. And I think there's some really good work. Do we have to keep at it? Absolutely, yeah. I mean, look, the last sort of, 18 months or so on a, you know, in this sort of on the global stage, both politically, you know, that sort of diversity and inclusion is, you know, has come to mean different things to different people, and there's, you know, there's been a reticence to be sticking one's head above the parapet when it comes to those topics, which is a great shame.
It is.
But you know, look, you know, most smart recruitment business owners and leaders are smart enough to know the commercial imperative and benefit that comes with having a diverse and inclusive workforce.
Yeah.
And one that's sustainable.
Yeah.
You know, they're fed up of losing females because, you know, the human demands of wanting to embrace a family, you know, they have to come into the business and they have to be accommodated for, you know, for both, you know, for both genders. It's, you know, gender diversity, you know, we've got to keep working at it. I think we are doing, all the businesses that I work with are doing good things.
Yeah. It's about the support, like it's putting in the infrastructure to allow that person to do that and to maybe only work 4 days a week as an MD of a business
and
of 50 people,
work.
and it can work.
Yeah, and we see living examples of that. And, you know, that culture of presenteeism has kind of gone as well, which the recruitment sector was really bad at.
Yeah.
And, you know, COVID, you know, a silver lining perhaps, I mean, I think that it was always on the far horizon, but it kind of brought it to a much closer horizon. The change of working methods and that lack of, you know, the fact that, you know, hybrid models can work. And so that's a really positive thing. But yeah, when the more examples that people see around them, then the more inspired they're going to be. But it's something we have to keep working at because we are by no means there yet.
No, I see a lot of female leaders who could get to a certain point and then just say, I'm just going to go and work for myself at home because it's just going to work for me, and they become solopreneurs, which is great. But, you know, they are leaving the workforce to go and work at home, which I feel like that skill set of leadership is leaving the
when we lose
industry.
something, everyone loses. You know, you lose. You know, there are gains for the individual there, but they're practical gains, not necessarily career gains. And that's a great shame because everyone's, I think, going to be left feeling a little unfulfilled.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just moving on to a little bit more about your sort of vision and your legacy, like in terms of, I know it sounds, obviously I hope you're not going anywhere yet, but anyway, is there any sort of legacy or impact that you want to leave on the industry? What would it be?
I think having had impact, just, you know, it's quite simple really, isn't it? I mean, you know, having impact, you know, both on, you know, the people who've had, you know, in my own business, the impact on their own careers and their, you know, their ability. That's a wonderful part of leadership, isn't it? When you see people really transform in your business, and, you know, through the culture that you've created, the environment you've created, they've thrived and they've gone on and done great things. And I think that's you know, having had impact on people along the way, I think is a huge part of that. That's a really great legacy to have.
It is.
And also on the industry, you know, having in my advisory work, I think, you know, having had the impact with business leaders, you know, working with them to create the options that are going to really, you know, be life-changing, you know, being able to watch their businesses grow for whatever options they want to create. That's you know, that kind of impact is really empowering.
You mentioned culture there in terms of creating a culture where this can happen. Like if there's a female like team leader that's got a team, like how do you create that culture? Well,
I think it's a combination of things. Then I say to any CEO or MD or leader, you know, your sole job really as CEO is to create the environment in which people can thrive. You know, it's quite simple, really. If you distill everything, it's about you create the environment in which people can succeed. And I think that is a number of things. It's definitely culture. I think it's tech stack. You know, investing in, you know, great technology that's going to support people, that showcases you as a fast or future forward thinking business, investing in technology that's going to support people's ability to be more successful. Yep. I think it's having great infrastructure in your business as well, you know, have a great marketing function, have really strong finance support, have people function, invest in learning and development, showcasing your investment in learning and development and having an environment that is, a coaching culture, and people are constantly learning and they're challenged, and they don't need to go somewhere else to fulfill an ambition.
I think having clarity of that promotional pathway as well is
absolutely really, and what you need to do to achieve at each step of that journey. Having great marketing, content, collateral. It's so easy to punch above your weight when you've got great marketing as a business, and that really supports a consultant's ability to build their personal brand within the company brand. And I can't overestimate the importance of doing that. So I think there is a number of things, but if you could nail all of those, then you will have created the environment in which people can thrive. And a large part of that is culture, and of course that is driven from the leadership down, and you decide what kind of culture you want, and then you work out your way to create that. But so much of that is about the leadership and the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah, 100%. What advice would you give a woman starting out in a recruitment role?
Never wait until you're ready. You think you're ready, because it won't happen. So, be visible. Learn how a business makes money.
Yeah.
Quite simply. I think a lot of people, operate in a vacuum and don't understand how their business makes money. How is this business profitable, and how am I contributing to that? I think the relationships in recruitment, focus on relationships from a really early stage. When you first enter, I think it's the internal relationships, but show your calibre by the quality of the internal relationships that you can cultivate. Find yourself a mentor. And that doesn't necessarily be in your business, that could be anywhere, but find yourself a mentor. And in your business, find yourself early on a sponsor. Find yourself someone at a more senior level than you who's going to be your sponsor internally, who's going to be sitting at, senior meetings advocating for you. That's important. Yeah. And work on building confidence if that is something that you need to build on. And I'd say we all do.
Yeah. 100%.
And look, work hard. It's a tough gig, recruitment.
Yeah, it's obviously
a tough gig. But I think we've got, if you've got great technology, you can manage that much more, really effectively now. You don't have to be at your desk at 7 o'clock at night in order to be doing the job. At all, but it is, it's a tough gig, so be prepared for that. But it builds, it's a wonderful training ground for business, for resilience, tenacity, rejection, learning about how companies operate, negotiation. It gives you a great set of school, absolutely, time management. It gives you a great set of tools, doesn't it? So. But you've got to take advantage of that. Yeah,
absolutely. And just in terms of success, do you think your definition of success has changed over time, or what does success look like to you today?
I think it does, doesn't it? I think, certainly, early on it was very much about, the titles, the, money.
The holidays.
Yeah, it was about the, you're kind of driven by slightly different things. I think now, I would frame that differently. It's really about sort of, owning my own time, being able to manage that. It's about the luxury of working with and engaging with companies that are really aligned with my own thought process, values, ambitions for businesses, etc. So I think it undoubtedly it does, that how one defines that does definitely change over time. Rightly so.
Well, you've been extremely successful to date, and I think there's a lot of companies that are doing extremely well thanks to your advice. So I think that's all going very well. So that's really, really amazing advice. I really appreciate all your insights. We just have a bit of a quick fire round just to understand a little bit about you, just to finish off with, if that's okay. So I'm just going to say words at you and just let me know what you think. So coffee or wine?
Well, I think it does depend on the time of day. But
if you had to choose one?
If I had to choose one, it's got to be wine. It's got to be wine. Yeah.
Heels or trainers?
I know. Look
at us.
I love both of them. And I've got trainers today. But I think that you'd have to prize my heels from my cold dead body.
Okay. Good, I love that. Excel or whiteboard?
Whiteboard.
Yeah, 100%. Night owl or early riser?
Oh, night owl.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Inbox at 0 or organised chaos?
Oh, inbox 0.
I'm the opposite. Office buzz or work from home vibes?
Oh, office buzz.
Definitely.
All the time.
Book or podcast?
Book. Which I shouldn't say on this, should I?
Only the Changing the Game podcast.
Yes.
And actually, interestingly, what kind of, is there any books that have really changed your, vision? Have really helped you in your career? It's quite a good one to, or any podcasts that you would advise people.
Yeah,
to
I mean, I
listen
always listen to podcasts in the car. Yeah. So going on a journey, I think podcasts are great, and I think I've always enjoyed reading, listening to the Damon Hughes one, the
High
High Performers. That's good.
It is good.
Really good. And I'd encourage anyone, because you can dip in and out of that, and there's some really interesting people on that. And of that ilk, I think, are good. They're interesting. I love a series as well. But I think on the book front, yeah, certainly. I've
been so many.
Yeah, I'm on the spot as I can't recollect. But there are, definitely I would make recommendations around whether it's just self-development or, there's been quite a number of books recently, and I'm trying to think of the name of one, but I can't, about, our ability to switch ourselves off from the very, very noisy online world.
Really? Okay.
And they have been helpful for me.
Yeah, that's a very good point. When something goes wrong, who's the first person you call?
Do you know, I don't think there is. I don't think I do. I think when something goes wrong, I've already kind of internalised it, debated it, thought about it.
Dealt with it and moved on.
And kind of concluded what my decision was. I may then talk to people about what that decision is, but I'm not one for...
seeking advice at that moment. Interesting.
But, yeah, in that sort of...
In that moment.
I don't overly catastrophise.
That's a good trait. I like that in you. Scale fast or build slow?
I don't think it's as binary as that. I think you do both at different times. There are times in a market when it's absolutely right to scale very, very fast. And other times that's really ill-advised. So I think it just depends on where we are in the market dynamic. But I think you've got to be equipped to do both.
Yes, absolutely. And finally, legacy or lifestyle?
Gosh, that's a tough one. Legacy, I think.
Yeah, well, you've certainly built an amazing legacy, and I really appreciate all your insights today.
Yeah,
it's going to be super
you're very
valuable
welcome.
for our audience.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you again very soon.
Yeah, great to chat.
Thank you.
Thank you.